Started. Welcome everybody to this second session actually on behavior change for circular economy. We started this mini series we just double checked again before end of March it already was, so it's already quite a while ago. And in this first session, we gave a general overview of what behavior change is, what the levers of behavior change are, what the return of investment of behavior change approaches can be, etc. And in that session, we also kind of identified what other needs there are from the group, or where the interests are for further sessions. And and that's why this session will take place today on the topic of how financial or material incentives can be used effectively for behavior change. And we're also planning further sessions, one based on the demand that you expressed today within this call, and a second session that we already have lined up for end of the year is on behavior-centered design for upstream circular economy solutions. So that just as a little short introduction, while people are still joining, glad to see that all 4 speakers are in the call now. And welcome to everybody else as well. Please note that this session is being recorded. So if you don't want to be in the recording, just turn off your camera maybe, or use the chat function instead of speaking up. That would be probably the easiest option, or just leave the call if that's if you really disagree on the recording. We will also post this recording on our YouTube channel so that people who cannot join will be able to have a look into the inputs also after the session. My name is Nicole Benson. I think most of you know me. I coordinate the Prevent Waste Alliance and will be one of the facilitators of the session today. And with that, I would like to hand over to the second facilitator, Vanessa Esslinger. She will introduce herself and also the Coalición de Economía Circular, we are organizing the series in cooperation with. Vanessa, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Nicole. Well, hi to everyone. As Nicole said, my name is Vanessa Esslinger. I work for United Nations Environmental Program, which is the organization leading or coordinating the Circular Economy Coalition for Latin America and the Caribbean. We are a pretty new platform. We've been founded 1 year ago, and we are a multi-stakeholder platform. So we were founded through the Forum of Ministers of Environment 2021, but with the explicit focus or vision to be a multi-stakeholder platform. But of course, having governments on board is one thing also that we with the Prevent identified as a really interesting synergy with Prevent, since Prevent also is very much focused on very practical solutions and a space, especially also for companies, right, where we have more detailed conversations. I just wanted to also mention that as coalition, we will be coordinating with GACERE, which is a global alliance for circular economy and resource efficiency, on bringing out a report that will specifically focus also on the role on consumer behavior and circular economy. Although we are tending not to, or we would like to transfer to not only saying consumer but maybe user, as it is in the circular economy. But yeah, that report or that process will start soon, just as a heads up and news from our side as well. And with no further ado, I think let's start, and I'll hand over to our first speaker, which is Katy Hefner. She is Senior Director for Partnerships and Engagement at the Center for Behavior and Environment at RARE. And over to you, Katy. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I am going to quickly pull up my slides to share.
Katy, we can hear you, but a little low. The volume is quite low.
Maybe if I talk louder, can you hear me?
Is that... Yep.
Okay.
We can hear you, but...
Okay. Huh. This is the first time this has happened to me. So I will...
Now it's better.
Okay.
Much better. Perfect.
See which I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. I will get started. So thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to engage on this topic, to hear from the other presenters, because there's so much that can be done in this space. So like Vanessa said, I am Katie Hefner. I'm coming to you from RARE's Center for Behavior and the Environment, and we spend our time thinking about the role of behavior change and behavioral levers and behavior-centered design in sustainability solutions. So I wanted to kick this off, and some of you have seen this before, particularly if you've been in our other sessions, but I just wanted to kick this off and ask everyone a question because I think it tees up this topic really well, which is you're about to buy a new phone charger for $21.99 when you learn that the exact same charger is available for $12.99 at another store 10 minutes walk away. Would you walk to the other store to get the charger? So I think in the chat, if you want to drop your responses, because I'm sharing my screen, can't see them all, but go ahead and just drop I'll leave like about 15 seconds to just drop, would you walk to the other store, yes or no, to get the other charger? Hopefully you all are putting some responses in, thinking about it truthfully, if you would make that trek down.
Yes, most people are saying, or everybody so far has said yes.
Yes, okay, great, thank you. So I'm going to keep going in the interest of time and ask again. Now you're about to buy a new computer for $1,329 when you learn that the exact same computer is available for $1,320 at another store 10 minutes walk away. Now, would you walk to that other store to get the cheaper computer? Some of you might have figured out what we are asking here, but go ahead and put in the chat and be honest if you would go ahead and walk to the other store for that charger. Or sorry, that computer.
Quite a lot of no's coming in, Katie.
Common. So you are just like every other group that we have asked this question. And the reality is that most of you have figured out that I asked you pretty much the exact same question there, which was, would you walk 10 minutes to save $9? And the answers vary, right? It's not a simple question that I just asked you. And the reality is that when we think about making decisions like such as this, even walking 10 minutes to save $5, that in our lives, we have a spectrum of making decisions. On the one hand, we have this very calculated, intentional, where we weigh our options and we come to some conclusion, and it is a very intentional choice. Where on the other hand, we have this almost reactive, emotional, quick decision making that happens. And over the tens of thousands or however many decisions we make in a single day, our decisions fall along the spectrum. Some are very intentional and some are not. And so the challenge, though, comes when we look at environmental solutions that we often use tactics that are designed for one type of thinking. We often use the type of thinking that is towards the rational side. And this does involve material incentives. So if we just pay people or we give them something or we find them, that will motivate change. If we create a law or a rule or regulation, we just stop them, that will motivate change. Or if we give them information, we just tell them about climate change, we just tell them about the Great Plastic Island, that will motivate change. The reality is those can be significant drivers for change, but they can sometimes be insufficient at motivating change. And that's in part because we are only thinking to one side of the spectrum. So financial incentives, they can backfire or crowd out other motivators. Fines can be seen as the cost of doing business. Rules need enforcement and if they're misaligned with a cultural or social norm, that can sometimes lead to just people breaking the rules commonly. Or it's well known that information alone doesn't motivate change. We all know things we should be doing more. We should be exercising more, eating healthier, doing all these things. And that doesn't always mean that we are doing exactly what we should do, even though we know better. And so when we think about the levers for change and motivating change, and particularly as we start thinking about material incentives, really building in this other side of the spectrum of decision making, the other levers for change, that we know emotions can be more powerful than reason. We know that social influences, that we care what other people think about us, and we want to fit into whatever group we see as a peer group. We want to fit in and be liked by our peers. And this concept of choice architecture, which is the context and timing of our decision making, that matters a lot. And so as we think about material incentives and we think about motivating change, it's really important to then be thinking about these additional levers and how can we build them in. And so I want to talk you through 2 examples of material incentives that either backfired or pivoted in different ways to think about and learn about how these levers kind of added on to just a material incentive lever. This first one is an example. It is not in the environmental space, but it is in the childcare space, actually, out of Israel, where it looked at daycares. And it looked at parents who would come a little bit late to pick up their children from the daycare center, which was a challenge for the staff who were tired or needed to go somewhere or needed to leave. And so it used to be that when parents came late, it would be more of the relationship with the parent or with the teacher, where they would cause the teacher some sort of emotional or challenge. There wasn't a fine, but the daycare center actually introduced a fine to see what would happen if they started making parents pay if they were to come late, not just because they felt guilty or they felt bad for the social cost among the teachers for coming late. So in one group, there's a control group where they didn't do any sort of fine. And then another group, they had a test group where they fined them a certain amount of money for coming late. And you'll see in the beginning that actually the test group kind of stayed the same or even were somewhat better than the control group for coming late. But over the long term, what happened was after the test left, so they stopped fining people, and they figured out it wasn't working as well. So they stopped finding people. The people who were in the test group actually continued to come late, even though they had removed the fine. And that was in part because it had changed the concept of the transaction. It was no longer a social burden. It was no longer causing the teachers to be late to whatever they were doing, or the challenge of having worked all day and then staying late to care for their kids. Now it was seen as a financial transaction, and that changed the framework that people were operating within. And the parents once the fine went away, they actually were late more because they saw it as the price of the care rather than the social interaction. So another one is coming out of this organization called Health and Harmony, which is doing some really great work internationally. And it's about listening to your target audiences to align incentives, particularly material incentives, with motivations of your target audiences. So they're working in Borneo, and they were challenging this traditional concept of payment for ecosystem services, where you pay people to protect their local environments. And while in many places we think about this payment and we think about, cash is king. If we just give people the money, they can choose how to spend it. The challenge here in listening to the community was that cash was only king, or cash was best only when they had access. And so the community, when talking with this organization, they didn't have access to valuable things such as healthcare and other types of training necessary to take care of the resources that they wanted. And so the organization reframed their exchange into really what motivated the community. So they were thinking about this spectrum of decision making, and they were thinking about these other levers that exist in our behavior change framework. And so they understood what was actually motivating the community, and that was what they built into the material incentive, not just monetizing the resources that existed. They also found that forest protection as a whole was not as powerful as the pride of place, or what we see in many of these communities as a deep connection to their forest and their communities and locations. And so as we think about sustainability solutions, thinking about emotions and the role that they can play in driving change became extremely important here. And it did lead to a powerful return on investment. The Stanford University in the United States led a study that found that leveraging the material incentives had a value, not just to the environmental outcomes, but it also truly did for the community as well. And so it's a way to think about our material incentives differently. And so I think in the short time that I had with you, what I really wanted to motivate everyone to be thinking about is material incentives are an incredibly powerful motivator of change. And I think what we have the opportunity to do in our design of these solutions is figure out how do we create material incentives that will strategically and thoughtfully in ways that drive the outcomes we want to see, rather than just do what is often what seems to be the most straightforward answer, which is just give them something and then that will create change. So just a little plug for our Center for Behavior and the Environment before I turn it over. One, we have trainings in behavior-centered design, and a couple coming up this fall. And we also have a resource, behavior.rio.org, that is totally free, that talks more about the different levers of change and different resources and tools for how you can apply those levers to your sustainability solutions. So thank you so much for having us. And I want to turn it over to the next presenter to dig more into examples and how these change levers can be more effective.
So thanks a lot, Katie. And since you already made some advertisement for the rare trainings, Prevent members also have free access to a self-paced training at the moment. So if you want more information on that, please feel free to either reach out to Eva or myself. Otherwise, we can also share that again in the chat. And yeah, having said that, I would like to hand over to you, Peter. Peter is one of the founding members of Prevent. So he's been part of the Prevent Waste Alliance since the beginning. He's global director of the community partnerships at the plastic banks, and would like to share some insights on how material incentives can be used in a positive example to stop ocean plastics. The floor is yours, Peter.
Thank you, Nicole. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, perfectly.
Yes. Yeah. First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to share about Plastic Bank, and also I would like to thank also RARE for the resources that I have undergone that free training, and it was very, very helpful for us. So I can only recommend it. So if it's really a very helpful training and very good. Okay. Now, what I want to do the next few minutes, I would like to explain first to you what Plastic Bank is doing, and then I would dig a bit deeper into what material incentives we are using, and then in the end, I would like to reflect on a few lessons, what are the advantages, disadvantages, and the conclusion from our point of view. So the battle cry of Plastic Bank is to stop ocean plastic, and the idea is to prevent it from going into the ocean. So the phrase of turning off the tap is basically what we are trying to do. And we work mostly with informal waste collector communities in the global south, in Philippines, Indonesia, Egypt, Cameroon, Thailand, and Brazil, is where we set up collection infrastructure, mostly working with already existing informal collection networks. So we're not competing with existing, but we are basically partnering with existing and trying to maximize their impact, so to speak. We are using a digital tool which we call our blockchain alchemy, where all informal collectors set up a user profile, and through which we also give digital tokens, and every transaction, every kilo that's collected is recorded. Every collector knows how much they have recorded, and we know how the plastic goes through the supply chain from the collection to the to the sorting, then to the processing, and then it goes to the customers. So the way we work is we sell the feedstock as plastic resin, and we call it social plastic because it goes for a premium price. And from that premium price, a margin goes back into the communities through which we finance their incentives. We also work with companies who don't use plastic resin or recycled plastic resin who cannot, like for example, companies who use contact lenses, they only can use virgin plastic, but they can offset the plastic that they use. And for that kind of offset, we collect plastic and recycle it. So those are the two programs, which are actually the next slide. So we call them impact programs and we call them social plastic programs. And also we use both of these programs to finance the incentives that we are giving out on the ground. And the idea is that the informal collectors, they are basically the first line of defense collecting the plastic, but mostly they are living in utmost poverty and are marginalized in the society. And we would like to see an uplift through the incentives that we are giving. Here are once again the places where we are working. So those are spotlights of ocean plastic, like Southeast Asia. We see Egypt, which is one of the main plastic polluters of the Mediterranean seas, then also Brazil and Haiti. And then now we're also moving to Africa. We are now also in Cameroon as well. Yeah, but Egypt is also in Cameroon, though. Wait, anyway, here are some of the ideas that we are looking into. Our framework, so to speak, are the SDGs. How can basically plastic collection become an avenue to contribute to the fulfillment of the sustainable development goals? And so we have done some kind of studies and working with the informal collectors on the ground and seeing what do you need, what will help you the most, in what kind of incentives would be profitable for you. And the idea is also to motivate them to collect more plastic as well. And so we are using cash, clean water, food, cooking fuel, power, the telephone data, school, health insurance, and digital savings. So those are the different categories. And what incentives we give specifically is in the next slide. So here are basically an overview. So far, we are working since we started collecting, so to speak, in 2017. Through things that we have impacted 31,000 families with those incentives. We have collected about 50 million kilograms of plastic, and we have about 600 collection centers. So that just to give you a bit overview of our size. And so here are the different categories and the different items. So there are monetary incentives, which we give out as digital tokens through the blockchain platform. Those can then, at the collection point itself, at the junkyard, the collectors can transfer them into cash, because in many countries there is still a cash economy. So people, they want cash right away, because then right after they collect, they go to the supermarket or the small or the wet market and they buy stuff. But we also work later on. If you look at the digital, we work with digital savings accounts, mostly to the telecom companies. So we also teaching people on how to save. And so people could also be transferred into their mobile bank accounts, so people can save money. So this is part of our financial inclusion and financial literacy programs. Then in education, we give out school bags to the kids of the collectors. School kids, when the school year starts, when there was the COVID and kids only could attend digital classes, we were giving out tablets. And then we also realized many of our collectors are illiterate. So we also conducting literacy classes for the informal collectors as well. We have a number of digital incentives, so people can exchange the tokens into internet data. We have through the mobile platform saving accounts, and in a gamified way, we also give out smartphones. They say smartphone is the PC of the poor, where they can access all kinds of information, and so people are very interested to get smartphones as well. In nutrition, especially during COVID, food boxes that we gave out were very important. For a while we gave rice, but then we realized rice is not the healthiest food. It's just carbs, so we have exchanged it into grocery vouchers, so people can then choose what kind of food they want to buy. If you can also buy vegetables or fish or something like that. We also realized many of the people, they are collectors, but they don't really have the tools to collect as much as they could. So often people ask, can we have push carts? Can we have trolleys? Can we have sacks? So we are also gamifying those. And then often people are, when they're collecting trash, they have wounds or they inhale odors. And so we also give out safety gears, rubber boots, masks, gloves, those kind of stuff for the people. And then the final one is where we look at the area of health. We're working with micro-insurance companies. Many people that we would like to have a health insurance, so we have health insurance packages. During COVID, we gave out COVID kits, mostly masks. In some areas, people have not access to clean water, so we give out water filters and also soap, because people collecting trash would like to clean their hands, and not always soap is available. So those are the different material incentive packages that we have. And so so here's one example with one of our clients. It was a Swiss bank, Lombardo-Dier. They gave out 3,500 tablets during COVID to help kids to stay in school. And for that one, there were 16.5 million plastic bottles collected. So in that way, it was an offset program for Lombard-Odier. So that is how we make it as a business case or sustain it. Now here are some lessons that we learned. So we realized, as already was said, incentives are very powerful, and what we often hear from people now, because of the incentives, we realize plastic is not trash. It has value. It has the value to change our lives, and so people realize that, and people become also more interested. So even our collectors saying, hey, we know now that if we don't collect the plastic, it goes into the sea, and it breaks down into microplastic, and the fish eats it, and we eat the fish, and then the plastic is in us. So it also some educational aspect that motivate in behavior change. We have seen it increases collection rates. People are much more motivated to collect. It improves people's lives. It gives stability in uncertain life situations to regular income. We have actually in our survey, the incentives bring an increase of 31% of income to the informal collectors as an average, so some more, some less. Of course, with the bank accounts, it helps people to get out of informality, and so it can support this kind of behavior change. Like we have now also programs in schools where we do education with the children as well. But we also realized, hey, there are some challenges. It's not just so easy. You give out stuff and everything gets better. Now it also needs to be sustained. Like what we see, you do an intervention and you can't do it. It gets even worse than it was before. And so we really need to keep sustaining it. And if you can't, it sometimes it's not. Sometimes also people lose their trust in us and stuff like that. So So, and we also realized what works in Egypt might not work in the Philippines or in Indonesia. It's again different. So we really need to look at each country, in each society, and saying, hey, what's helping you guys? What's working here, and be sensitive about it. And we realize we need partners for that. Like in the Philippines, or we work with the biggest telco to have those bank accounts that you can give, and then they are using that, they're giving that for free for us for their CSR and stuff like that. And for us as an organization, that means we need a headcount. We need additional people who administer this whole incentive program. You know, we need to monitor it. You need to watch it. You need to implement it. You need to deliver it. So it takes additional costs on the organization to make sure it's being implemented properly. And then we also realize if we go in with our incentives, it distorts the market, because suddenly this junk dealer who's our partner suddenly can pay better prices, and the junk dealer down the road is not part, he can't compete, so he's losing business because of the other guy. And so that is a danger, and it can even create frictions in a community where people just suddenly get angry at each other. So it takes a lot of sensitivity, and it also creates expectation that people thinking, hey, if I do this, what can I get from that, you know? And so our conclusion is this: with working with informal collectors, material incentives are a strong driver of behavior change. And actually, they're also basically bringing justice into the system, where the people who work the hardest and are the most marginalized get a bigger share of the margin, which I think is due to them. But they need to be adapted carefully to the culture, to the context. And there also needs to be a strategy to think how can it be sustained, or how maybe can we transform it into non material incentives, that people see, hey, it's not only what I get, it's actually that I'm doing something good. So we are thinking maybe this is not something that can be sustained forever, but maybe need to be phased out. And how do we do that is something that we're also thinking about right now. Okay, that's from me. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks a lot, Peter, and Katie, for the two excellent presentations and insights. Now we have about 10 minutes for questions, so feel free to either raise your hand or post your question in the chat. We already have some one question actually in the chat by Udo Lange. He asks in which way the municipalities are involved in your program, because in some cases municipalities are also setting up something like waste banks, for example in Indonesia, as an official part of sustainable waste management systems. And yeah, and if the digital applications also like can also be promoted when bringing your waste to the waste banks. And yes, I guess you have an answer to that, because we have a pilot project in Indonesia with Plastic Bank. So
exactly, yeah. That's a good question. We work as much as possible also with the local municipalities, and like in Indonesia, those are also organized by the government. So they're also our partners. Also, like in the Philippines, we are now piloting kind of citywide programs. We have 2 municipalities where the municipal government approached us and saying, hey, can we set up what you're doing in the whole city, and all our material recovery facilities and waste banks and sorting facilities will all be integrated into your system. So we make sure less money goes in, less waste goes into the landfill, and everything that can be recycled, we can really filter it out and bring into a circular economy, because that's also a material incentive for the government. If we can get more recyclable material out of the waste stream, they pay less for the trucking to the landfills, and that saves them. some money as well. And so we are always trying to do that. And we are actually becoming more intentional about it as governments are approaching us for those kind of strategies.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Udo?
Only to a certain extent. Now, my question is, first of all, yeah, congratulations, excellent initiative referring to Indonesia. If everybody now with those initiatives is taking out the valuables of the waste stream, especially plastics, metal, the valuable ones, does it still make sense then from the municipal side and from the state side, who is supporting and financing investment programs, to erect sorting facilities on sanitary landfills if all the valuables are already out? Thank you.
Yeah, that is a good question.
Oh, that is the case. I mean, I'm also working for KfW project, which is investing in setting up 4 sanitary landfills with sorting stations and composting stations. And of course, what is now happening upstream with all these initiatives, which are in principle very good and valuable, is influencing what is coming to the landfill and is processed still on these new financed from Germany with a lot of money sorting and composting plants. No? And if this is not balanced and this is not happening in conciliation with all the actors, and that is important, I think we are coming into trouble.
I understand that. Yeah, that is something. Yeah, I did not actually know that these initiatives are happening with those sorting plants. So that's something that has to be really considered. Yeah, I understand that.
The coordination is important here between all these initiatives on municipal level. And that was my question. If all these good opportunities that you are pointing out are, in those places where you are working, promoted also and offered for the local municipalities and their structures. And yes, I heard your answer. Thank you for that.
Maybe just, I mean, I think it's a relevant discussion, and you can probably go into bilateral exchange for further deepening the discussion. I would suggest that we redirect a little bit the focus towards like the question of how material incentives can contribute to behavior change. Which is like the focus of the session today. Nevertheless, I think it's important also, of course, to always bear in mind the coordination among stakeholders. So thanks for that comment. Otmar, you have a question or comment?
You are still on mute. You're still on mute, Otmar.
Yes, thank you for not letting me talk to myself. Nicole, I'm not quite sure whether after your previous remark I should still ask a question. Is it okay? It's still related to the...
I don't know what your question will be. Go ahead.
Well, let me try. I hope it's a short one. I mean, I'm a little bit confused, Peter and Udo Lange, because I think what you want to prevent with your activities at Plastic Bank is littering the seas, right? Yes. So, I mean, if these plastics are valuables, so why should they litter the oceans and not be collected? So I would assume that if you did not do this initiative, the plastic would just remain where it is and in the end litter the ocean. So this is why I wonder a little bit that now it could affect the value chain of waste management if you have this collected and do something with the plastics, which otherwise would have littered the oceans. So I do not quite get the point here of why this problem, which Udo addressed, actually exists.
Actually, I can only speak from Plastic Bank side. We are basically looking into mostly coastal communities and communities close to rivers. So we are not working we are not working in landlocked countries where also there are no major rivers or something like that, you know. So we're really focusing on communities where there is a high potential of plastic leaking into the ocean, and where maybe the infrastructure does not yet exist. So maybe we are not yet getting into the landfill sorting facilities way, because we are looking also mostly at communities where there is not enough collection, where there is no dump truck coming, or maybe only once in a while or something like that. But it could be probably, we are not the only ones. I think there are now, I think in the last 5 years, I saw so many initiatives starting. So maybe it is the mass of all these initiatives that maybe creates then that kind of ripple effect, so to speak.
Okay, so I think yeah, maybe this discussion can actually take place in more detail in a separate I don't know, setting. Maybe back to the behavior change aspects, which of course also I think are part of this discussion. I mean, we have the case in Indonesia, where we actually, the pilot project in Indonesia, where Plastic Bank is involved, where we are segregating the waste, or trying to incentivize to segregate the waste at a very early stage in the value chain, in order to also to increase the quality of then the products that are recycled at the end, which is of course an advantage, that segregating the waste as early as possible, also through incentives, would have, as opposed to mixed collection and then landfilling, or at like segregation after mixed collection at the landfill. Then there's another question by Carlos. Do you want to unmute yourself? I'm not sure I understand the question.
Hello. Yes, I was just thinking about the proposal. I am from the Ministry of Environment in Lima, Peru, and I wanted to know if how do you get the sustainability? Because you mentioned you need more people to keep the whole system going, growing, and to where is it growing? Then you start speaking about phasing out, and you say, which is going to be the sustainable structure where you can say, okay, now we have a recycling. As a matter of fact, this is how life works. We don't have to go and create this idea because it's already there. What gives it the fuel to keep going and say, well, maybe there is a market that should be established. There's a market that has to be regulated, of course. What is plastic? Who can collect it? How do you get a permit? Where do you put up all this stuff? But in a vision that is akin to what he has been presenting, which is, of course, it sounds like a very rounded proposal. It has quite the good attention to the person, to the people, and of course, now there's a difficulty with the people that beforehand were gathering these products. And they feel left out because you're not going to pay attention to him. He was the godfather of the whole area. They say, well, maybe the godfather had a role to play before. Maybe he has a role to play in the future in the new market. I don't know. If you have a market where to play, the conditions, imagining, of course, this is not that act, it doesn't exist actually, but imagine that you have this market playing, maybe you have a source of where you can get clients, where you can get protection, where you can get formality, where you can get many of the things that any other industry, let's call it like that, gets. So this is what I was saying, maybe we can create a plastic market, let's say that, of a sort. Maybe this would be a way of phasing out and leaving it in good hands, no? But you know how markets behave, don't we? So there is regulation to be made.
Yeah, I agree. I think what is happening with the different EPR initiatives in many countries, with the extended producer responsibility, it's trying to be regulated. And I think also there is a pressure on companies to use more recycled plastic resin, where then the market is maybe not really more regulated in such way, but the market is is more stable on recycled plastic resin, and so what we have experienced with our clients is, of course, we are like a supplier of big multinational companies like Henkel and SC Johnson, and to become a supplier of them is really very hard. Their purchasing department is scrutinizing you severely until you get in, you know. And then they start buying first smaller quantities, and then if they see it works, then they're ordering bigger. So I think it's also something that takes time. I think now that more and more big companies want to buy recycled plastic resin and creating a demand, I think that would also maybe then lead to a better regulated plastic market.
I can only agree with what Peter just said. We also observe that here in Latin America, big companies, big recycling companies are having actually trouble to get enough material to do recycled plastic because there's a growing demand for it. Looking into the chat, I don't see any further questions for the moment. Oh, there's one more comment from Sisa Aslam. Maybe we'll take that one more and then we'll go on with our 2 more examples we have. Sisa, go ahead.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Shaza, and I'm a circular economy research fellow at a higher education institute in Pakistan. So we are currently managing a pilot for which we are providing waste collection and material recovery facilities to 3,000 households. And one component which we are really focusing is on source segregation, and that is a low income area. And here the education rate is also very low. So we are trying our best to do campaigns. So my question is, like, from your different experiences, have you come across any optimal schedule that after that many months one should revisit the campaigns? Or maybe also the type of campaigns one could have, maybe focal group discussions are better than workshops, or maybe one-on-one meetings are preferred over even focal groups. So maybe something for me to strategize and also to work out with the pilot we are having. Yeah, thank you.
Interesting question. I guess, well, Peter, you have monitoring systems and also Katy.
What I can say from my experience, because I started to working in recycling even before I came to Plastic Bank, and we did campaigns in urban poor communities in the Philippines, and the impact was quite little, you know. Then when we started a recycling shop, is where we just start buying the recyclables from the people. Then that was very impactful. And then the next step we made actually kind of handicrafts from this recycled material and gave people jobs. And what we realized, and also when we talked to the people, they said, well, your campaigns and your approach is true. It's not nice that we have trash all around and that's not working, but you know, we just have to feed our kids, and we don't have really energy to take care of this problem as well, you know. And so in that way, the material incentives was actually an avenue to make recycling attractive to people, because it became an avenue for them to meet their needs. Actually, in this particular community, it came to the point that people were stealing the plastic trash from their neighbors to sell it to us, you know, and then we had to deal with those kind of issues. So maybe you need to think, how are there maybe possibilities maybe where you can substitute some of the, or supplement your campaigns with something that's really very meaningful to the people as well, and changes that make it attractive to them to participate.
Thank you, Peter. I don't know if Katy, you have some last recommendation or additional comment on that, since you are also do quite a lot of monitoring, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I would recommend, I think Peter's right on the mark in what we often describe as the behavior-centered design process, where you use strategic steps to figure out exactly what will motivate your audiences. And when you're able to do that, that's then, and from a monitoring perspective, one of the things that we talked about developing is once you go through the behavior-centered design process, to identify what is motivating them, to identify what are the barriers that exist between your and motivations between your activities and the desired outputs that you hope to achieve. Oftentimes, that process helps you identify what you can measure. So if you assume that what people need is access to healthcare, or you assume that people need access to certain things, you can start measuring their beliefs or their ability to achieve those things. We call it a psychosocial theory of change, which is a psychological and social theory of change that basically step by step then gives you those intermediate measures for how you get to the kinds of outputs you hope to see. But I would absolutely, like Peter said, using a strategic process to figure out, in some cases, material incentives are incredibly powerful, and financial ones too. I know I talked a little bit about the side effects, but they can be very powerful. It's just used strategically and used intentionally, because that's what your process has identified as being effective. And then you're able to measure those and monitor those through your theory of change and what you understand are the drivers for action.
Thank you very much, Katie. Maybe you can post the link to the training or a contact to be able to access to the training again in the chat. That would be great. I guess that's something really useful we should all go through. Let's go next with our example from Tanzania, actually. I'd like to introduce to you Christian, and please correct me if I mispronounce your name, your surname, Christian Miyage. He is founder of EcoAct Tanzania, and he also is sharing with us his experiences or examples. The floor is yours, Christian.
Thank you very much. Vanessa, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Thank you very much. It's my honor to be invited to share our experience in the typically an African perspective of how we are trying to transform plastic garbage to incentivize the community. So allow me to share our PowerPoint and quickly.
Yes, it's not yet up, but let us know when you're ready.
Is it okay? Is it okay now?
We don't see it yet. Let's see. Maybe we can also help you by sharing it. I don't know. You can send it to Eva or to me, and we can try to share it if it doesn't work.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Will not. No, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Otherwise, I would really suggest, Christian, maybe you can send the PowerPoint presentation to Eva, and in the meantime, we continue. Verena, would you be ready to present now? Yeah? So maybe we'll just start with the presentation of Verena, who is Executive Director of the Fundación Manos Verdes, and also brought an example on, I think it's also related to eCoins. I'm not sure if these two presentations are actually linked with each other. And we have a second speaker, Carla Chavez, who is the regional program director of the eCoins program in Costa Rica. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I will try. I didn't want to share a presentation, but due to the previous conversations, I think I will just share two small slides so that you understand where we are coming from and why we are connecting now also with Carla Chavez and the project of eCoins in Costa Rica. Manos Verdes Foundation is originally, one second, I just share the presentation. We are based in Argentina, and we're working in Buenos Aires since 2010. So that was the starting point of all our actions and activities with the Manos Verdes, based on environmental education. So it was actually an exchange program from a university in Augsburg in the south of Germany, where the students came to Buenos Aires and they had to work on a project for a volunteer project. So they picked up the waste topic. And actually, at that moment, there were no waste separation programs in Buenos Aires. So we started Manos Verdes with the main objective to generate environmental awareness, but also promote the exchange of know-how and technical experiences and best practices between Europe and Latin America, so mainly Germany and Argentina. I'm sorry, I cannot find my presentation to get it uploaded. 1 second. So actually, the biggest question for us was always how to generate this awareness change. And with the students, we started at schools. Actually, we picked 5 schools at the beginning and to work together. And the major experience was right at the beginning, if you don't have a waste management infrastructure together with the local municipality, this is a nice intent, but you don't have concrete results afterwards. So that was a really small experience, and later on we started Manos Verdes with 12 schools and 12 municipalities, and it was the same experience. So after 3 years we changed our strategy, and we worked together with the local municipalities directly and focused on one municipality who asked us to work out an integrated waste management plan, including an educational program with schools and a door-to-door collection program in the whole municipality. The municipality has about 300,000 inhabitants, and since 2014 we are working very successfully in this municipality, which is the neighbor of the city of Buenos Aires. So, but the experiences showed that actually the people who are educated are really interested, but the main part of the population is really still like sleeping. So actually this year, I'm just making this speech because I will not share the presentation. I want to give the time to Carla that she can share the presentation of eCoins, but because this is the time, the purpose we are here today. So actually this year we met Carla, and Carla is working together with eCoins, and our approach our proposal or objective together with Carla is actually to motivate especially those people who haven't heard of waste separation so far and who are more interested because of a material benefit. So this is the objective to implement now, and as of September, eCoins in Argentina and Buenos Aires and Buenos Aires province. And I will hand over to Carla, and later on I will connect again with our presentation maybe.
Thank you, Verena, and good morning. Do you hear me?
Yes,
okay,
Carla, maybe we can just use the opportunity that there's a change in speaker because Vanessa actually has to leave now. So thanks, Vanessa, for co-moderating. Have a great, follow-up meeting. I think you have like a contract, this negotiation meeting, so good luck with that. And we'll just continue with Carla's presentation now. So thanks, Vanessa, and
thanks to everyone as well. And we also will be working on providing more examples from Latin America in the future. Nice to see that Carla and Verena are here, but also count on the fact that we'll have more examples also in the future from the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vanessa. Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, our name speaks about incentive, speaks about a coin, a currency. eCoins is a currency that rewards commitment to recycling, but we try to open all the spectrum, not just as a currency, is a general incentive. We create this system. We launched it 4 years ago in Costa Rica, even though we have been working in figuring out how to do it for more than 12 years working with our clients. My background is from communication. I'm a PR person, and I was trying to help my clients to create awareness for their environmental or social programs, impact things they used to do, but with no sustainability or with no metrics, or they have to start over every year because they lose the land every year. They have to start from zero. So with my partner and I, Lucila, we said we need to find the way to do it, to do this sustainable, and to do create a system. We have to learn something from linear economy, and we need to push transition to the circular, but with slowly and in a way the consumer can be in the center. So we create eCoins as this system, and now after 4 years we are the only regional currency. We said this is the system you can use in any country in Latin America or in the world. So I invite you to consider this program for your countries, or to help your own systems in your country, because in the number 4, you can see that we're not competing. We're collaborating with anything that exists and works in any way. And we try to be part of this successful too. It's scalable, it's flexible to all recovered materials. And I think this is one of our main strengths, because we started with plastic and ordinary materials. But then we realized that consumer behavior needs you to transform to a more convenient option, to a more compelling option, a systematic thing. And that's why we use in technology, communication, trying to educate, first of all, putting the consumer at the center, and creating this pressure to the industry, and changing little baby step habits that the consumer can do every day at home. In these 4 years, we have travel like a roller coaster experience, ups and downs, and every day is like a laboratory of trying to do things and understand the consumer better. And these 4 years we have been working together with other entrepreneurs as Verena, other organizations, other companies, and now we are in 6 different countries, in different steps of our program. eCoins is a loyalty program, so it depends, as Peter said in his presentation, that every country has their possibilities and things that already work fine, and things that you're never going to get in some countries. There's governments that are very oriented to collaboration. There's governments that are very close to collaboration. There's countries with many other issues to solve before thinking about recycling or thinking about the environment. So you have to be very open and flexible, and try to put all these menu of solutions and possibilities, and every country is going to choose what works better for them. But now we have more than 100,000 people involved, and there's a lot of possibilities that we are seeing now that we understood better how the consumer can operate. And this is one of the main things, as I told you. Plastic is just one of the things we need to solve. But if we do not offer a compelling system, the people is going to be very lazy. And in one point, they will lose interest. So you need to start getting news and updates and new materials and new places to go, and of course, new incentives. And now this is our menu of possibilities of materials, not just ordinary materials, but special management materials as tires or oils, which they are materials very, very complicated, environmentally speaking, and they are very invisible. You can see how oil is contaminating the ocean. You can see the plastic, but you cannot see the oil, or the rye, the electronic and materials, they have a lot of plastic inside, but this is like an invisible thing yet. So our system works for any materials, and you can like put it on and off in the system. If you want to work with plastic, then put off all the rest. And if you want to work with all materials, you can put out online. We create eCoins en casa, which means eCoins home with the pandemic, because everything was closed, everybody was at home, and we need to create a system that allows people to continue with this effort. So people get the materials in any place they have available. It can be a truck, can be a clean spot, can be a campaign, a special campaign, or at your company, if their company offers you a possibility. You put your things, your information in the bag, and you send the picture. And that's the way you win the eCoins. This is the first step. You win eCoins, then you can use your eCoins in a catalog of discounts. And here is a big thing, because as you said before, there's a lot of possibilities and a lot of challenges, because we have multiple consumers stages and possibilities for them. And we create a catalog that can be appealing for different kind of people. So some of them just need to, maybe don't feel alone doing this. Some people just need to be part of something bigger. Maybe they are already convinced and they are doing something, but they feel lonely in the way. So this is a community that can help people to feel less lonely. The other people need to be proud that they are doing something. So we create possibilities for them to feel proud. And some of them need discounts and some of them need money. So we create different possibilities. For example, if you just want to feel better and think that you're doing something more than recycling, you can compensate your plastic consumption for a year or for a month. But if you need, if you want to take your dogs for care, you can use it for your dogs. If you want to use your eCoins to be part of a big lottery, maybe you can do it, or you can donate your eCoins for a social cause, for something that you love, like children care or a pet's care. So your eCoins are going to be your tool to be part of a biggest community, and you feel power. Now with our app, we have the possibility to scan the label of the products, and you can see from the very beginning at the supermarket if this bottle can be recycled and where. Our app sends you to the places, give you the information, all complete in the same place. I just want to, for finishes and let you make all the questions, I want to share this video. It's a very short video about how eCoins work and maybe can help you to understand better. Please let me know if you can hear the audio of the video.
En el mundo existen muchas monedas, los dólares, los euros, los yenes. Y ahora además existe una ecomoneda virtual llamada eCoins, que le da valor a tu compromiso con el reciclaje. ¿Qué son los eCoins? Seguramente ya tienes muchos eCoins en tu casa, oficina, centro educativo, o incluso has visto eCoins tirados en la calle, porque ahora los residuos valorizables se pueden convertir en eCoins, que son puntos canjeables por descuentos en productos y experiencias de empresas responsables. ¿Cómo se ganan los eCoins? Es muy fácil. Visita nuestra página ecoins.eco, busca tu país y crea tu cuenta. Después, lleva tus residuos limpios, secos, separados al centro de acopio y valorización más cercano, donde te asignarán los eCoins de acuerdo con la cantidad y el tipo de material. Visita el catálogo de descuentos en la web para conocer cuáles son las empresas participantes. Elige y activa los cupones que más te gusten y canjealos en las tiendas. Hay que estar pendiente de nuestras redes sociales para que no te pierdas ninguna oportunidad. No tires más el dinero a la basura. Corre la voz, separa tus residuos y aprovecha tus eCoins.
Well, you have a lot of information in our web or in the YouTube channel. And I invite you, if you want to consider, I'm sorry, I had to turn off the, please give me a second.
Estamos enviando un mensaje al país y al mundo entero.
Sorry. So I was inviting you, if you want to consider eCoins for your ecosystem, it's like a different tool you can use, and it's very scalable. Is the costs are very low, and that's the way we knew Verena and their organization, and now in Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Guatemala, El Salvador, Panama, Honduras very soon, Colombia, Peru, and now in Argentina with Verena and plastic banks in Misiones, Argentina. We are taking this experience and this system and put it for them at the service of Argentina or the country that need it. And all the technological and the experience we have been having in these years is available for other entrepreneurs and different countries that are struggling in the same way with us as us do in Latin America. So I am for you if you need any, you have any doubts or questions.
Okay, perfect. Thanks a lot, Verena and Carla, for the presentations. I would, in the interest of time, directly hand over to Christian. If maybe you can share your screen now. I think you received the presentation. Perfect. So, Christian, it would be great if you could keep it within, I don't know, the 10 minutes, the scheduled 10 minutes for your input, so that we have at the end also 10 more minutes for questions. The floor is yours. I hope you're still in the call. Yes, I can see that you're in the call. You're still on mute, though. Yes, now we can hear you.
And can you see the screen also?
Can you see the screen? We can see it.
So can I proceed if you can see the screen, please?
So next slide. We can see now the slide that says the story of my friend Michael.
Yeah, Christian, please just tell me when to skip to the next slide. Thanks.
Because I don't see the screen, let me continue without the screen, without the PowerPoint, please.
Okay, we can see the screen. We are seeing the slide that says the story of my friend Michael. So
yeah, because I cannot. It's because
okay.
I cannot see the screen. So let me continue without the PowerPoint. Because
okay,
I cannot
ahead.
see it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks. So my name is Christian Mwijage from EcoAct Tanzania. I'm the founder of a social enterprise that's called EcoAct Tanzania. And basically our project is recycling plastic garbage, and specifically plastics from the ocean banks, and transform them to plastic timbers that are used for building, construction, as well as furniture making, while incentivizing the community with medical health insurance. For us, it's a kind of like a story why we began this project. The past like 4 years back, I had a friend of mine who was called Michael. He was he was driving a motorbike. In Africa, we call them boda boda. So he got an accident one day, and it was very expensive for us to cover the medical expenses. So normally we go through donation, whereby family members and friends have to donate. For that, it took us a lot, like more time. And at the time we are trying to continue fundraising, this friend of ours, Michael, died. So one of the very exceptional thing in Africa is if you have a family that lives together, like more like people living in Islam, they normally bury their relatives a bit close to where they are staying. And then what we discovered is like the place where we went to dig the grave, it was full of plastic waste, full of them. Because like, you know, in slums, most of the waste normally go down that area. The question is, that's where I kind of like an idea came, like, what can we do with this plastic waste that we are really struggling when we are digging in the land that are really being continuously disposed in the slums. When we checked this, we found that the only thing a poor family in slums in Africa that can give you for free is garbage. So the concept was, how could we use garbage as an incentive to help this poor family, empower them access to medical health facilities in our country? That's where for the first time we launched what we call garbage medical insurance, a micro health insurance that used the plastic garbage to help the poor family access to medical health facilities on exchange with the plastic waste that they are either disposed near their home or they are really coming from their homes. We launched this for the first time in our. When we were doing this, we had to mobilize the community, and then the community, they have to collect their plastic waste, at least 30 kilograms of plastic garbage at their homes. And once per week we go, we visit these families and collect the plastic waste and then provide them with medical health insurance. So we had to partner with the medical health insurance facilities to provide this service to them. So what we learned from this is most of the families were really looking forward to join the project. But what they were really, what we thought, what the big challenge we solved was not only to offer the medical health insurance to these families, but also to help the plastic collectors like us. Because the plastics, when are collected at their household level, they do separation and then you take them while they are clean, which means you help the sorters to reduce the cost of washing and cleaning them if they could get these plastics from the landfills. So for us, we were able to recover most of the cost by training these families to do the sorting and cleaning the plastic at the household level. So when we take this plastic to our factory, we basically transform them into plastic timbers that are used for building, construction, as well as furniture making. And then when we sell these construction materials, 40% is taken to pay the cost for medical health insurance for these poor families, and 60% remain so as to run the social enterprise. So 100%, we are very profitable and we're becoming more competitive because we could see like most of the incentives plastic suppliers are getting in East Africa is most of them like are paying them money. But look, if you are giving us with a 30 kilograms of plastic garbage, you are getting a medical health insurance cover that's worth 5 million shilling Tanzanian money, which means you'll never get any compensation like that when it was to be paid in terms of cash. So because we are having a big community we are serving, we're currently serving like 320 families in East Africa. And this gave us the opportunity to get a very good premium from these medical health insurance providers to serve this community. So I would like to share one very simple example. We the past month we had what we call change your behavior campaign and stop throwing garbage at night. And recently, after the war which happened in Russia, it had made kind of fuel price rise more in Tanzania, also in East Africa. And what we learned is the cost, because in my country you have to pay to dispose your garbage. Yes, the municipal car comes to your home, you have to pay them for them to take your garbage. This is normally how it works. But it's different to slum families, whereby people who are struggling to get money to eat, where do you expect they should get money to pay for the garbage? So what happened recently is most of the family, they wake up in the night when everybody is sleeping and they throw the garbage on the roads. So you find so much garbage on the roads in the morning because the price even of collecting this plastic rose after this, when the fuel price rise, also the price also rose. So we had to run a campaign going house by house, telling the people to stop throwing garbage on the road, training them so that they keep their plastic waste, and then we take them and compensate with this. With the 1 month working with this campaign, we managed to put on the project 120 families, and we are currently able to collect 5 to 9 tons of plastic waste every month from these families. So basically, this is how we are working in Tanzania to incentivize the families with medical health insurance or exchange with that plastic garbage, to empower the family, especially the poor, to access medical health insurance. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that impressive example, Christian, and also thanks for keeping to the 10 minutes. And yeah, with that, we have another 10 minutes for questions. And I actually saw in the chat that there were already some questions to you, Carla and Verena. One was how or what is the estimated population that can be reached by eCoins in a city of 300,000 inhabitants, is a question that Barbara asked.
It's a good question, actually. Carla, maybe you first. You have the experience from eCoins.
Yeah, it's hard for us to have these metrics because we were living in the middle of a pandemic time. So it changed everything about market and about data and about behavior. Everybody was like trying to deal with different things. But our goal is to get to the 1% of population in the first 3 years of the program. If you have 1% of the population, city population participant, you will get very good information, traction to do and try things. So it maybe sounds very small amount, but 1% of population can move different things. And for example, the people, and I'm Carla, and I'm inscribing and I'm registering in eCoins, but I'm Carla live with 3 or 4 more people. So I want Carla's participation, but I know that Carla is putting together 4 people more. So at the end, if you have 1% of the population, you will have maybe 4 or 5%, but there's a hidden number. It's the child, the young people, the elderly are moving with this leader of them, each house. And it mostly are women and women between 35 and 50 years, the ones that move more, the numbers. And I want to say something more, because we have been talking about sustainability, how to do this sustainable. And one key we have found in our experience is that you need to add the entrepreneurs, the small and medium companies, because they are the one who offer the discounts. So you need to connect these women needs and preference and desires and with discounts or incentives from entrepreneurs for them. So this is a great result we have or we have accomplished, trying to put together women, desire and needs, and entrepreneurs that want to offer products and experience for them and for the family. Pets move a lot. Children, schools, things that you need for your family. People that is aware of environmental issues and wants to do something. There's people that has families, most of them, at least 2 or 3 dogs or a cat as a family, but they have more like desire to do something, and they are taking care of someone else. This is like the perspective we have been trying to understand better. If you need to take care of someone else, you are going to take care of the environment too. So this is a nice relation we have been trying to take advantage.
Yeah, maybe I can add some data, especially the municipality I was talking about, of 300,000 people or inhabitants. Actually, the program is running since 2014, the waste separation program, and until the date of today, they only have 10% of the population separating waste. So it's a long process. But in the pandemic, the amount, it has been an increasing of 30%. So the pandemic helped us a lot to increase this number. And I think once you have this critical number, the critical mass, then it's getting faster. So it's like this typical curve of growing, and you just have to reach the critical mass. And I think I totally agree with Carla, because that's the strategy, especially to include also the entrepreneurs who produce products made of different materials, plastics, or they do recycling. So we have some really creative products which are innovative. And here the main important thing is that you have good alliances and good partners, especially to communicate. So this is the basic. So my origin is also communication. That's why Carla and me have the same vision. Actually, the key of the success is and how to communicate to the people.
Thanks a lot for sharing that. I also saw that Peter would love to reach out to you, Carla, to collaborate maybe in Brazil. So I guess we can exchange contact details. And I see another hand by Lavender. Would you like to just unmute yourself and go ahead?
My name is Lavender. My question goes to Christian. I'm from the neighboring country, Kenya, and I was really interested to know how the perception of general perception of the local communities in Tanzania regarding other incentives apart from medical insurance. If it is different from Kenya, I just wanted to know. So, Christian, have you ever came across those individuals that maybe are not feel that the medical insurance are not convenient for them? And if yes, which other kind of incentives have they asked for? And how are these incentives perceived in the communities? Are they helping? Are they happy for when they are introduced to them? Or I just wanted to know the general perception of the other incentives apart from the medical insurances in the neighboring in our neighboring countries, Tanzania.
Thanks a lot. I will reiterate that question because the sound was not so clear. So it's to you, Christian, the question, and it's about the general satisfaction about the incentive being health insurance by the communities, and if they were not so satisfied, what other incentives did you offer to these communities or the community members that were not so happy with the health incentives?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. You know, like when we are beginning this project, typically the first incentive was not garbage medical insurance. We used to refund them with cash. And after doing with cash for some time, we just observed two main big challenges. The amount of cash that the community that were given would help the family to get fed maybe for one day, and that is it. The next day, they don't have money to feed. That's one. Then the second thing is like we did a research to understand these poor families, at what area are they spending too much of their money? We came to discover that these families spend almost 70% of their income. They spend it on healthcare. And then most of them, if they have a patient and they don't have enough resources, they have to sell most of their things, sell land, sell their properties, you see? So this was the point of their main pinpoint. Fine. And then on the third parties, on ourselves as a social enterprise, when we are just working with this incentivizing money, we had also some competition. We got some Chinese company coming to Tanzania, and they're also buying plastics. These guys had a lot of big capital and big technology, and so they could wake up in the morning and say, guys, I want to buy 1 kilo of plastic for 2,000 per kilo. And then yesterday, it was 1,000, you see, depending on their market where they are selling. So they made our price a little bit fluctuate, and we couldn't really fix out the selling price of our final products. So understanding the need of the community, understanding the need of us stabilizing the price of our finished products, we had to come with a very different strategy that we need to offer a product to this family that will solve both issues. solve us, enable us have a cost a stable pricing structure, but also offer these poor families solve their biggest pinpoint in their community. So for us coming with a garbage medical health insurance, it was a kind of like, if you are providing 30 kilograms, and if you are to sell that to these companies, they could simply give you 30,000 shillings, 30,000, I'll say like maybe $5 USD, just in the simplest way. But if you just bring them to us, we could give you a medical health insurance cover that's worth 5 million Tanzanian shillings. So there is no any point you could get the really big compensation of this plastic waste if we were to trade them for medical health insurance. Two things happened. All these poor families remain loyal to our project because that's where they could get the biggest compensation. And second thing is we need to solve their big main challenge when it comes to health access. So this way we kept on getting a lot of inquiries to our project, people joining the project. So it's different. For example, for now, we gave them option. If you want, we could simply give you cash, or if you want, go to a medical health insurance. But I'll be very honest. Like for now, we are saving like we have saved like 1,036 people with garbage medical insurance, and they are like 20 to 29 people who have decided to take cash. So you can see people who prefer cash are very few, like only 2 to 3% compared to people who say, fine, no, I want to enroll to this medical health insurance, because they see the impact when the big problem of health comes to the family. That's why we kept on sticking to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you a lot for that answer, and also actually for the question, because I think it sums up quite nicely what we discussed today. I think what I at least take home from this session and from all the 4 excellent inputs, so first of all, thanks a lot for all the input providers, is that it's really important to understand the needs, basically, and to put the humans in the center of your approach, to understand what they need and then adjust the behavior, the incentives accordingly. So yeah, financial or material incentives can be one very good way of reaching out to the people and covering these needs. But it's really important to analyze in which form you would provide these material incentives, and also if there's other levers that could complement this material incentive in order to achieve a higher impact. So thanks a lot for sharing these examples, and I'm really excited about the next session, which we will plan for the end of the year, probably focusing more on upstream solutions. If you wish for a specific topic to be addressed, please use the opportunity now to suggest a topic in the chat. If you would like to provide your own example on behavior-centered design or behavior change, then also please feel free to share that example or your contact details in the chat so that we can contact you afterwards. And with that, I would like to thank you all and close the session. Thanks a lot and have a great rest of your day, evening, night, and yeah, we'll see each other soon.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Thank you. Goodbye.